Welcome to Bored and Confused, where I review shows based on two criteria. One, was I bored? Two, was I confused? Today's show is Home. This is being produced by Roundabout Theatre Company. I just saw it a couple weeks ago. Home is a play that just uses three actors. It's about one man's life. His name is Cephus Miles, played by Tory Kittles. And it starts in 1950s, and the playbill says it goes to the present, but my guess is the present when this play was written was probably in the 1980s. Otherwise, this guy would be crazy old, although still could work. So we've got Tory is playing Cephus, and then Brittany, Inge, and Ayers play Woman 1 and Woman 2, and they play all the other characters. Now, this is a revival. I had not seen the show before, knew nothing about it, went in and saw it, just 90 minutes, one act, in and out. Was I bored and was I confused? I was a little bored at first. I gotta say, this is not my favorite kind of play, because when you've got two characters that are playing all the other characters, the acting can become very presentational. Some of these characters have one line, two lines. So these actors have to really establish who that character is in one line, in one moment, with a very broad choice. And sometimes when that happens, the acting can start to feel untruthful. They play a lot of characters, maybe 20 to 30 each. It's a lot of characters. And some of the characters are more successful than others. Some, I felt that they were really able to find the humanity and find the truth in those characters and really bring them to life. There was one character of this kind of hoochie mama in New York City who I really loved. And then there's the lead character's love interest from down south. Anyhow, she's great as well. And those characters just get a little bit more time to marinate, and we get to know them. As I started watching the play, I was not loving it because I was bored and I just didn't like the presentational aspect of the acting, and I didn't know where the play was going. So I was a little confused. I was like, what are we doing here? But I'm glad I stuck around, because by the end of the play, 80, 90 minutes later, well, let's say 60 minutes later, once this character has moved to New York and his life just is falling apart and he's struggling to get out, I understood what we were doing here. I was on his side. I was like, oh, this is a play about love at the heart. This is a love story, which I didn't know until like halfway through. And then I went, okay, now I see the trajectory of where we're going. And then eventually, spoiler alert, the relationship comes back together, and the two lovers come together and they're happy in the end. This is a story that's been told many times. It's very similar to The Notebook, to a lot of shows where the lesson is that home is where the heart is, and this beautiful young woman that you knew when you were in your 20s and it didn't work out, but then you come back together and you have that connection because you're from the same place. It's a beautiful sentiment. I think there's a lot of truth to it, and I ultimately really enjoyed the play, but slow going at the beginning. Of course, there's bound to be confusion when you have two characters playing all the other characters, but for the most part, they did a great job, both the director and the actors, of keeping us on point and keeping it clear with the narrative of the story. I didn't love the costumes for the two women. I didn't feel, one of them had kind of a long, flowy, buttoned up thing. I didn't understand the period of the costumes, and if they were supposed to be no period, but yet they felt this long, flowy thing. It wasn't really functional in any way. At one point, I think she bound it up and used it for something, but for the most part, I just wished the costumes would have been either more useful or just even plainer than they already wore, and then give us maybe a few more props or hats or something. I mean, I don't want to turn this into 39 Steps, because that's a comedy and it's ridiculous when they put on the hats. But 39 Steps is a good example of where you have two actors who are playing all the other characters, and 39 Steps does it in a way where you immediately know who each character is, but it's a comedy and it's very broad, so they can kind of get away with that. Whereas when in a drama, they start getting broad, I start pulling away and going, I don't believe this. But I don't want to say that the acting was not believable, because it was. With the characters that they were able to really invest in, it became very truthful, and I really loved those scenes. What this show really reminded me of, and I think this was Roundabout Theatre Company revived the production of Lackawanna Blues, starring Santiago Ruben Hudson. I'm gonna write the name what it really is, see if I got it right. This is a one-man show, and he had a guitar player, and it's similar time period. But what I love about Lackawanna Blues is it's one actor, and he does these monologues of all these different characters, and each monologue really allows him to delve in, and we really get a sense of who that person is. It's really fascinating watching Reuben dive into each of these characters, and I loved Lackawanna Blues from beginning to end. So in comparison, Home pales a little bit, but it's a different show, and even though it deals in a lot of the same sentiments and time period and theatrical devices. So go check out Home. It's a limited run at Roundabout Theatre Company, and you will leave with your heart warmed and hope that change can happen and that people can find happiness.
Don't bore me, don't confuse me. If you do, then you lose me. I don't wanna drift away, wanna stay inside the play. Keep me engaged, keep me amused with what's in front of me, 'cause I don't wanna be